Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're just gonna give it probably until 4:02 to let people roll in. But thank you, everybody, for being here in the midst of end of May craziness and APs, and it's a beautiful day outside, and so we appreciate you coming out to spend this hour with us. Um, if as folks are rolling in, you want to introduce yourself in the chat with name, pronouns. If you represent an organization, you can put that and also where you are calling in from today. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. I just want to kind of quickly run through a couple of group norms kind of for the next hour. As you've noticed, we are recording. That is just so that folks that are taking APs and like doing other things and can't be here today can kind of get caught up and learn from OGIS later on their own time. We ask that everybody participate with respect, humility, generosity for other folks, which means sharing airtime. And also, if folks are able to have their video on, that would be awesome. And also have their mics muted. And with that, I will pass it over to Jennifer to kind of solicit some district team updates so that we can learn a little bit from each other.
Fantastic. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I just want to throw in another thank you because it is a beautiful day and we haven't had enough beautiful days. So thank you for taking an hour. That's amazing. And so this is our time to just celebrate each other and say, oh my gosh, what have you been working on? The fact that you're here, little pat on, yay, me, I turned up at a meeting. Good job, me, for something I care about. Yay. And then so that's one. But this is also a time when we can celebrate wins from our team. So I thought I would start by modeling the fact like that Cambridge had its first meeting. And I'm really proud of us for having our first meeting. So we can celebrate that. You can put your little updates in the chat as to where you are. Just put your, what district you're organizing with and what's your update and your small win or big win. And then I'm going to invite a few folks to share out loud if they have anything they'd like to share that way. We could start. I know Somerville had something to share, so maybe we could start. I think there's some Somerville folks here. If anybody wants to pipe up. Okay, Courtney had said that maybe you would share your latest.
Yes, I was muted. I'm okay. I'm in Somerville with the Somerville Safe and Healthy Schools Coalition. And I think Alex Hershey, he's not on the call yet, but him and I and a few other members on our team came up with a resolution. And so tonight, City Council will be voting on it. And then in a few weeks, our school board will also be voting on a resolution. So we're really excited about that. And there seems to be a lot of support. So I think it's going to be passed today. I put that in the air already, but yeah.
Nice, nice. And do you want to just say like the resolution, does it focus on one specific thing or any particular issue? Is it mostly about education? Is it mostly about infrastructure?
Yeah, it's mostly about, I would say, education, infrastructure, and what building a zero carbon schools in Somerville looks like.
Nice, 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 nice. All right, thank you. So everyone, woo, Somerville, good job. And anyone else? Just like, I feel like Lowell, is anyone here from Lowell? I got an email. The Lowell team, is anyone here to represent? Okay, so I will just, actually I have the wrong view on, I can't see you. Oh, hello, everyone. So I will just shout out to Lowell because there's, I think a student group there, or actually no, their group has also put together a resolution that is coming in front of their school board to be voted on. Let me see. It says due next Wednesday, send the following into the superintendent. So they're still in the feedback stage. But they've moved it to sending it to the super to get feedback and so forth. So that's fantastic. And that one focuses on students having input into and creating curriculum, I believe, so around climate. So go, yay, thanks, little hearts and everything else. Go Lowell. Anyone else who wants to just like, if you had a meeting, you started a group, you're proud of yourself because. Ferd? We can't hear Ferd. I don't know why. You don't seem to be muted, but we also can't hear you. There, now we can.
Oh, cool. So I'm working with a group of people in Greenfield. They've been tinkering with the resolution. They're about to have their first meeting, I think. It includes somebody who actually is on the school committee, and they've reached out to the Greenfield resiliency climate coordinator for the town. So they're trying to line up their ducks. So progress, slow.
Good job. That's great. And I see in the chat, BTU. Is that Betsy? Put that in the Boston. Do you want to read it or so we can?
Yeah, the resolution is attached in that document. It's lengthy, but it calls for using the IRA to net zero building retrofit and new buildings. It calls for climate justice curriculum across the K to 12 at least, and a variety of other things that you can see in there. So that was voted on, and now it'll be sent to the national AFT, and hopefully they'll adopt it at the convention. We're pushing for a whole plenary session at the convention on climate issues, the IRA, all of that. So that's beginning to look hopeful. We'll see.
That's amazing. That's great. Okay. Anyone else? I don't know if that was somebody. Oh, there we go, Tom.
Yeah, I just wanted to say from Cambridge, Jennifer gave the basic update, but something I learned from our meeting, we had, I think, 6 or 7 people at the meeting and 3 were Cambridge Region Latin students. And something I realized from that meeting that might be useful to others is that reaching out to teachers is at least as effective when students do it as when we do it. And because the students on the call were all like, oh, I know this teacher is interested, I know that teacher is interested, that's a great way to do teacher outreach. It doesn't have to come through adult organizations.
Yeah, awesome tip. That's great. And is anyone, I feel like there's some folks from Arlington here. Does anyone want to give an update from Arlington real quick? No? All right. Well, we'll just shout out. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So just shout out to Arlington too. Brucey, do you want to?
I was hoping that I'm putting up my hand because I was hoping that Allie would do that because she's really the one that's leading the charge.
Okay.
Am I putting you on the spot, Allie?
No, you're good. Just one quick update is for the past month or so, as a team, Arlington has been meeting with a few students, some town staff, and just some other like interested stakeholders. And right now we're in communication with our school committee, and we're in the process of drafting our resolution.
So Arlington. All right. So obviously we have a crowd. Oh, Amherst, Sarah.
Well, I'll just add, I wanted to pile on. I got to meet your town finance director, Allie, and Brucey at an event on Monday, the Massachusetts Government Finance Officers Association. And I was presenting about IRA and tax credits and schools, and he was super engaged and he had a lot of questions and we had a lot of good follow-up, and he asked me for my slides afterwards. So you guys are clearly, you know, getting the energy flowing there in Arlington. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, out west, I guess I can give a quick update on Amherst because I don't see other folks. I know some of them were again taking those pesky AP exams today. There isn't anyone from Amherst here, right? Stop me if you are. Okay. So you might have seen Amherst in the news a few times. We've had a lot going on in this district, and we are right in the middle of, we just named a new superintendent. I'm not quite sure when she starts. And so I think that leadership transition has us thinking about when the right moment is to introduce this, honestly. So it won't all be, you know, rainbows and bubblegum and unicorns, and we understand that sometimes it's going to be hard. And I think Amherst is frankly in one of those hard spots. And so, you know, as you campaigners out there, you professional campaigners out there know, like picking the right time is part of the art and the magic here. And so we're trying to figure out what that right time for us looks like. So to be continued, but we're having good conversations.
Yeah, and you know what? You get a woo too, because we celebrate slogging through the muck. That's hard too. Deserves celebration. All right. So with that, I will turn it over to Sarah to do some introductions.
Great. Well, we are so excited to host some guests from all the way across the country from Arizona. You know, as we've talked about in this forum before, there are, you know, leading school districts across the country that have passed climate resolutions, climate policies. You know, we looked at the one from Denver, I think. We looked at one from Dallas, maybe, and Salt Lake City, and we kind of got into their resolutions. And the great thing is that has the effect of spurring other leadership across the country. And so we're super excited to have Ojas and maybe one of his high school classmates. Is your classmate from high school? I know you're not in high school anymore. Is Owen here?
Yes, Owen is on the call, I think.
Oh, great, great. So we're thrilled to have Owen and Ojas with us from Tucson Unified School District. They have got cooking some very, very exciting, really nation-leading work is what we hear based on the ambition and the scope of this resolution. This is by no means a done deal. Like, we are right in the middle of hearing from campaigners as they work through the really hard, sticky issues here. So, you know, they don't have their votes in their pockets yet. They are still working to make this so. But we're going to hear kind of, you know, get into the live action of this work across the country and see what we can learn from this different context. So I wrote their very impressive bios in the notes. I hope you will take a look at those. These two individuals are, you know, doing this campaigning around this resolution, but involved in other awesome, interesting civic and climate education and climate activism work more broadly. So I hope you'll read those bios. Ojas, thank you so much for being here. Owen, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you to share slides and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Thanks again for inviting me here, and really, really nice to meet you all and see you all here. So I'm Ojas. I'm the Tucson co-lead of the Arizona Youth Climate Coalition, or AZYCC. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about our work getting the Tucson Unified School District to pass a climate action resolution. So let's just get right into it. I'll briefly talk about what AZYCC is, what their resolution is, and like the whole process of that, obstacles we've run into and are dealing with now, and what our current status in this whole process is. So just as a quick introduction, AZYCC has been working with TUSD since last summer, so almost a full year, developing what we believe to be the country's most comprehensive school climate action resolution. And we're bringing it towards passage. So about AZYCC as a whole, we are a statewide youth-led climate activism group. We were founded like around 2019, and we have chapters across Arizona in different cities, around 80 members total, with about 30 in Tucson. And we're split into a couple of different teams here. And so we had this pre-existing org and this pre-existing infrastructure set up last summer when I started becoming interested in decarbonizing TUSD. So speaking of like our past infrastructure and like connections, back in 2020, we lobbied the Tucson Mayor and Council to declare a climate emergency. In 2022, we helped pass an EV readiness roadmap. In 23, City Tucson finally adopted a climate action plan. We helped make and shape that climate action plan, and we were recognized as an official partner. Later in 2023, we convened a climate strike and a climate summit that had over 200 people across both events. And since then, we've been working with Pima County, with the governor's office in Arizona, and of course with TUSD to shape their climate action plans and pass climate action resolution. So I heard it might be of use for you all to hear a little bit about how our org works. So we use Discord and occasionally like just normal text messages for communications amongst everyone, and we have a shared Google Drive for files. When focusing on this Tucson TUSD project, amongst like around the 30 people in Tucson, we formed like a separate group around a dozen or so people that were especially interested in this TUSD project. They didn't have to attend TUSD or be in TUSD. It's just people in Tucson who are committed to this project specifically. And aside from that, we also identified a team focused on comms materials for this project. And that's been a little bit later down the road. So press releases, media pitches, like who's making all this, who's working on all these things. During the policy research, which I'll get more into that aspect later on, we identified certain people to research specific policy areas. So like these two people are going to research water specifically. These two people are going to research electrification specifically. Just breaking up these different research topics per individual so that everyone knows what to do and how to approach this massive undertaking. And as I mentioned before, I know a lot of groups around school climate action form just for that initiative. And so we had the fortune of like being already established and having connections, and we were able to leverage a lot of those coming into this project. And for context, I joined AZYCC 2 summers ago. So I was in the org for 1 year before kicking this initiative off. So more about the resolution as a whole. So a high level timeline is around summer 2023 is when we started to get interested in this, and we started setting up meetings with the board members. So there's 5 board members, and Tucson is a pretty climate friendly place in general. And so we met with 4 of the board members, and they were all, so what we did is we took the New Buildings Institute's electrification resolution template. We changed some details that it's like TUSD specific, and then we showed it to them. And pretty much everyone was like, yeah, I'm down, like this is pretty cool. And then one of the board members was even more excited, and he was like, let's take this and let's make it into a climate action resolution that encompasses more than just buildings and transportation. It should encompass food and water and waste and everything else. And we were like, yeah, that sounds amazing. Let's do that. And then we spent the next like 6, 8, 9 months developing that resolution. So doing all of the research into all these different topics and putting together a new document. So we brought that to the board around a month ago in April, and it passed for a first read, 4-0 with 1 abstention. And now we're in stage 4 there on the slides, where we have to refine it. So we got a bunch of input from many like national climate think tanks. So we're refining it, we're updating that resolution, and we're navigating some district processes that are slowing it down, which I'll talk about later. So first, a little bit more about how the resolution is structured. It's broken into 5 big areas: climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and then education, funding, and equity. So climate mitigation addresses, we need to stop emitting carbon. So it's broken down into the 3 scopes of emissions, which were basically scope 1 is all direct emissions. Scope 2 is indirect emissions, mainly like where we purchase energy from. And scope 3 is everything else indirect. So upstream and downstream our supply chain. When we throw away food, like where is that, like what emissions is that making? When we buy a table, I don't know, like what emissions is that creating? You know, every single thing has to be considered. So the goal there is half all of our emissions by 2030 and reach 100% net zero by 2045. We also addressed climate adaptation, so extreme heat, which is very prominent in the Southwest, and lowering our water usage, which is also very prominent in the Southwest. So developing methods to help students deal with extreme heat and providing them resources and all that. Also climate education. And then we have specific measures in there for like funding, using the IRA, committing to like funding this thing during each year's appropriations processes, and also committing to equity throughout this whole thing. And so that's the resolution, and that's like a couple of pages long. And alongside that, we created like a 30-page document with implementation details on all of these. And that's going to serve as a starting point for the district's climate action plan, which the resolution commits them to make. So we've conducted a lot of outreach on this whole issue. We've met with a lot of national groups. So New Building Institute, WRI, like all these groups here. I won't like read every single one out of this list, but we've got a lot of input from the policy side of them. And the NBI has also been incredible allies in terms of communicating or coordinating press outreach and comms. And at a local level, we've conducted a lot of outreach to drive support for this, like at the board meetings, and also ensure that like TUSD is able to work with all of the local groups and resources to ensure that they're able to implement this effectively. We also done student outreach drive, and if Owen is available, I know he's in class, but if Owen isn't available, then I'll let him talk a little bit more about this right now. I don't know if he's around.
I think Owen is on the call.
He did unmute. I don't know if that's a sign.
Can you hear me, Otis?
Yes, you can hear you now.
Yeah. Sorry, my microphone was set up wrong. But yeah, so basically the student outreach drive is we really want input at every level from these students. And then we also want students showing their support. I know I'm the president of a school club that focuses generally on climate. So I know like a lot of students in the district are like really concerned about this issue and really want change at this district level. So kind of what my main focus on right now is reaching out to the students at these schools, kind of getting them to know what we're doing, first of all, and then also to do what we said here, which is to like coordinate and do these public comments, which are written to the school district, and then they can see like kind of the thoughts on this policy, and then also to email public comments to be read aloud at the meeting, and then also ultimately to show up at this meeting and then to talk in front of the school board of directors. And then we're hoping to get a lot of students out to the meeting just to support. We're hoping to get, I know in my club, I like made signs for the meeting to like hold up that are like, we support climate action. And then we're also getting people to like wear t-shirts we're hoping to get that say like, support the TUSD climate policy. So stuff like that. You can move on to the next slide.
Yeah. And just really quickly more on this. You see, we made this, Owen made this flyer here on the side. And this is a flyer that we're like distributing to other local groups and having them share it with all their members. And we're like printing these out and putting flyers in across middle schools and high schools around TUSD. And the QR code takes them to Google Form where they put in their information and they say like, hey, I want to send an email, or maybe I want to show up in person. And then we reach out to everyone who fills out that form and coordinate one-on-one with them to get them to send out an email or show up in person with some prepared remarks. Because this is like this massive coordination effort to make sure that as much community support is present at the board meeting on the day that it goes to a vote. So now the obstacles, right? All the fun stuff. So for a relatively long time, it was a pretty like smooth process, given that a lot of the board members were really excited about this from like day one. We kind of didn't have to deal with like convincing them to take school climate action. But now we've run into like a lot of the issues are around the fiscal part of it, right? Which is always where the problems are. But first, I'll talk a little bit from a perspective as the leader of this whole initiative. What didn't work as a team as we were trying to put this together. When we were given the responsibility to like, okay, put together a resolution that does everything, we were kind of lost, right? And we definitely waffled around for numerous weeks and probably lost like a few months of time that we could have used better. But we were just dealing with this massive question of like, okay, how do we take like these big climate goals and break them down into more specific topics and ideas and actionable items that we can write into policy. And so a couple of things that we didn't do that we should have done that would have made this process better. We didn't identify specific topics to research. Like when I would tell people, okay, research electrification. It's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? And so that led to like, not great research being done, or people just not knowing like where to even begin to deal with that. And maybe like proper resources weren't provided in terms of like, okay, you can use this as a starting point to figure out what sort of electrification policy is relevant to schools and relevant to TUSD, specifically in the Southwest. We didn't provide like template language for how to structure the research. Like, okay, I can go read like a report from New Buildings Institute about electrification, but how do I take that language and put it into a format that's actually useful for this resolution? And I think this whole process was kind of lacked a vision for what the final resolution would actually look like when it got passed. So we didn't know how to structure this. And if we didn't have the end goal in mind, we didn't really know how to work towards it. So getting clarification from the board member on these board logistics and like understanding how all these processes work, how it has to be formatted. We learned at some point that like we can just make a document and then like they give it to staff and then staff formats it again anyways. So like knowing that that is a thing would have been very, very useful. So better understanding, like having a clear vision for the end goal, and if possible, understanding from people in the system is definitely something that we should have done. Fiscal analysis has also been a huge obstacle. Owen, do you want to talk a little bit more about this?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, obviously fiscal part of this is going to be like the biggest issue because a lot of these systems were kind of built to not address like a kind of climate perspective, not address stuff that kind of is going to have a great impact over time for the school district, but right up front might be really expensive. So like the school district, when we kind of gave them this plan, they came up with like this crazy number. They came up with like $1 billion this is going to cost for us. But I mean, later on, like when we're looking at this, like we need to give them that support. We connected them with New Buildings Institute and these other places that have that experience doing this sort of analysis. And because of that crazy analysis that they did at the beginning, it's been kind of delayed from May to this next year in September. That's been the main like roadblock that we've had so far. And yeah, our response is just really working with these other organizations, getting TUSD connected, and then also like working with them on this financial analysis, not having it be like a black box that we can't even look at and we don't have to say.
Yeah, something I've noticed is that, they're super happy. They've been super happy to engage with us on the policy side of things. And we had a lot of power in terms of like what the policy is. But as soon as it came to like the money and the numbers, like we've been kind of removed from the process. They're like, okay, we'll take it from the kids. Like they can't deal with money anymore, right? So we're trying to understand, we're trying to figure out, okay, what is going on? Like who is connecting this analysis? What are they looking at? How are they doing it? How can we make sure that we're in the loop on this process? So that is our biggest thing, one of our biggest things that we're working on. And I think this is so district dependent, but I think it's, addressing the money is something that we should have thought about a little bit earlier. Like, okay, what are we going to do when it comes to this point? Maybe we should have done more to convince them to not do a fiscal analysis from the get-go, because I know Portland Public Schools passed a resolution and is only now working with the New Buildings Institute to conduct a fiscal analysis. Even the city of Tucson, they had adopted a climate action plan and did a fiscal analysis only later. Half of their reasoning is that once we have a plan, that makes us more likely to get federal money and federal grants for this. And so that plays a huge role in like funding this whole effort. And so we should have maybe made a better argument for all of that earlier on in the process. But so this is a huge obstacle that we're navigating now. So that brings us to where we're currently at and what we're working on. So there's a couple of different work streams going on. First, in terms of policy, as I mentioned earlier, we got a lot of policy input from a bunch of national think tanks on the language of this resolution. And so like we made this resolution, but it was like one college student, me, and then like a bunch of high schoolers. And, you know, we did our best. We want to make sure that it's a sound policy and good policy. So we need to update that resolution with all of their input, update that implementation details stuff. But that's easy compared to the other stuff on here. We were also trying to conduct internal stakeholder engagement. So informing and educating staff about this resolution, what it entails, what it means for their job role. This is so that we can ensure that it has effective implementation once it's passed, and so that it doesn't feel like, so that staff doesn't feel like this is being forced upon them. We're, as usual, conducting community engagement. We're connecting TUSD with like local orgs who would be interested in helping them out with this. We just connected them with a group called Local First that can help connect TUSD with like local growers so that can bring down their Scope 3 emissions from their food supply chain. Their fiscal analysis, as I talked about, and also communications. So preparing for media coverage post-passage. So developing a press kit, press releases, media pitches. This slide deck is probably going to go into that whole communications thing later on as well. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Much work to be done over this next few months. But we're all very excited to do it. So thank you guys so much. Happy to address any questions. And up there are the emails of Owen and I, as well as AZYCC's website. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This is like incredible work, and yeah, so much to learn from this. So I hope as you all were listening to Otis and Owen, you guys were thinking about your questions. This is such a great opportunity to ask, you know, folks who are in the thick of it right now, but probably at a more advanced stage, I think, than any of us are at, about, you know, how to navigate some of this. What questions do we have for this awesome team from across the country that we want to ask? What a golden opportunity. Raise your hand. Feel free to come off mute, your digital hand, your real hand. So there's a question here from Catherine. Catherine, do you want to come off mute, or want me to ask it? How did you get a group of students together in the first place?
Yeah, so AZYCC again was like a pre-existing org before I joined, but our Tucson team has definitely grown a lot in recent years, and so we were very fortunate that we had a lot of existing infrastructure. But I know Owen, for instance, joined when we were tabling at this local event called Cyclovia. It's basically this big event where like bunch of people like cycle around town, and it's like a big, I don't know, it's like a big thing. It's hard to describe. Owen was there with his bike, and we were like tabling over there, and Owen got interested and joined. I was attending like a mayor like climate event, and someone from AZYCC was there and told me about the org, and that's how I joined. Yeah. So mainly it's been like a lot of community presence, showing up to like every climate event, every environmental event, every youth engagement event, and to making known to people that we exist, that we're there, and that we're fighting for like genuine, meaningful change. And usually when you tell people about like, hey, we're passing this like really important thing, and like people in the vice president's office are like interested in it, like they're like, okay, that sounds cool, maybe I want to join too.
Love it, love it, love it. Tina, did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. it's impressive, all this work that you all have done. And you're a much bigger district than the one that I'm in. But I'm wondering if at any point did you think about like scaffolding your resolution or like scaling back? Like I know you said that you hadn't thought about the fiscal analysis part. I'm trying to address with our team that at the base level, because we're having such budget issues within our district, and we know that this will come up, that the financing and that will come up right away. And people will push back a lot because of the funding of these projects. So we are trying to address that right away, but I'm just wondering if you thought about maybe scaffolding the resolution or approaching this in stages or tiers at all, because I was just wondering if that might be appropriate for us, rather than trying to just do a huge umbrella resolution that incorporates everything all at once and involves a lot of policy research, like you said. Maybe just breaking it down into smaller bits, even though that doesn't also feel ambitious enough sometimes. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
Go ahead,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks. I mean, basically a lot of like we've been thinking a little bit about this. I mean, our first step, because we've run into financial issues, is really looking at the finances that they did. Like I remember in their financial analysis, they put like 88 people for like composting. Like that's not in our plan. We did not say we need 88 people for composting from the district. So just really looking at their plans and seeing where they're putting that money. And then also looking at like different pieces that have come out about like really how much money this will actually save in the long run. And then I know I've been looking at like grants that the school district can get. I was actually looking at an IRA grant the other day that would potentially award the district 10 to 20 million dollars because of a nonprofit partnership with a school district. You can get certain IRA, both straight up funding and then also tax cuts with that. And then with new, like there's been a recent change in how tax cuts work, where actually schools, previously, if they get tax cuts, they don't really pay that many taxes. So that's not really an issue. But now, because of this new change to how IRA funding works, they can get direct payments from those. And then in terms of like scaling back resolutions, another thing that we kind of did with our resolution is originally it was like 30 pages long. Like it was super comprehensive. It had all these granular details. But then the school district really said, like, we can't pass this as long as it is. So we kind of scaled it back by looking at the pieces and looking at like what we really need, what we really don't, and then also like broadening kind of the perspective. And then once it actually gets passed, the school is going to establish like a committee kind of over seeing this thing, or like having people that kind of make sure that it's being put into place following this wider district protocol, but then also making like a more comprehensive like climate action plan after this. So thank you.
Yeah, and to address your question a little bit more directly as well, we have thought about it really briefly, but we're definitely not fans of it. I mean, it's especially at a very base level. Like if we're trying to reach net zero by like 2050, like how do you make a climate resolution that doesn't include that measure? And any climate resolution that would theoretically bring a district to 2050 is going to be the same, like cost the same amount of money, regardless of like whether it's one page that says net zero by 2050 or if it has like specific details in terms of like replace electric school buses, which you'd need to do anyways if you're trying to reach net zero. And there's also a big question of politics around that, in terms of like we have like a very rare chance here where our school board is like 4-1 generally in favor of this, and that might flip when it comes to the next election. So we want to like pass this once, get it right, and lock this in for the next 2 decades, instead of like passing something small now and maybe it's like not that great, and then future school boards don't want to make it better. So we think it's all the stars have aligned to a point right now where it's more worth our effort to like get everything done in one go.
Awesome. There's a question in the chat about, union efforts supporting this. I assume there's been some dialogue with the union. Tell us about maybe what that's looked like, assuming it's happened, and their role in this work.
Yeah, I can also talk on that too. So I actually met one of our union representatives. He's really interested. I think we're going to present to the union directly whenever like their kind of next meeting is. But I don't know, we haven't really flushed that out yet, but I think we're really trying to get like stakeholder dialogue from like both the teachers union, probably some like administrators at different schools. I know I'm going to send out like emails to a lot of different schools, just getting their counselors, like their school counselors who really are like the ones who have the most direct contact with the students. And then also like the principals, like all on board with this so that they know what we're doing. And like, they can also like do an announcement over the, over like the PA about like what we're doing, and then like give students this opportunity to like get involved, to speak at that board meeting, do stuff like that. So yeah.
Has the teachers union made an express like statement of either support or opposition or neutrality? Like, have they revealed where they stand on this resolution?
Yeah, so I've only talked to like one person at the school, at the teachers union so far. Like, I need to talk to more people there, but the person that I've talked to has been like, this is really cool, this is something that the teachers union is going to support 100%. So we've gotten like so far like complete support, but we'll see how it pans out.
Great. It looks like Tom has a question, and then we'll come back to you, Jennifer.
Yeah, I had a couple actually, but I'll just ask one right now, which is a follow-up on what you were saying as well about kind of the strategy and the length of the resolution. Because when I read the resolution that I saw, which was not the 30 pages, it's like 5 maybe. And I thought, this is amazing. I have no idea if our school committee would go for something this long. And when you were talking, I thought, do you think it was a strategic advantage to start with 30 pages so that 5 seems short?
That was totally our goal the whole time.
I thought so.
No, no, but yeah, that's honestly kind of smart. Yeah, we can say that as part of our strategy. But no, he said, well, the board member that we've been working with has said that like the longest resolution they've ever passed has been around like 6, 7, 8 pages. And so, we showed him the process of going down from 30 to 7. And when a couple of other board members at the first reading meeting commented that like, hey, this is kind of long for a resolution, but also like you need to include all of this for climate action. So I think we were able to kind of slip under the radar in terms of like it being a little bit too long, but important enough to get it passed.
Okay, thank you. It's really impressive, and it's important in the climate space. People tend to sort of say, oh yeah, we're behind all that big picture stuff and not look at details. And this kind of forces attention to the details. It was really cool.
Totally. Jennifer.
I just wondered, you listed out some of the institutions that gave you feedback. And I'm wondering, were you able to get feedback from anyone on the education section? Or to whom did you ask? Yeah, who did you ask? Or yeah.
Honestly, I'm not sure we got too much feedback on the education section. So I'll actually work on that over the next few weeks. Yeah, thank you for
I
that.
think Jennifer just got herself another job, maybe.
Great.
You should hit her up for some comments.
Yeah, I can give input, but I do think we have a need for kind of guidance to districts on what does this mean to do climate education? What does this mean? What does it look like? So if you find others, let us know and we'll give you what we can. But
okay.
Yeah, and if others have ideas of who would be good, yeah.
Yeah, there are lots of other educators on this call, so I don't know. Alex, Betsy,
Yeah.
others have ideas.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk to that climate education piece, kind of what we put in our plan is more like using our existing systems within the district. So like having earth sciences classes at like every school was our like main piece there. And especially like AP earth sciences stuff, because a lot of schools like don't offer. I know in my freshman year I took AP environmental sciences, but really not every school in the district has that. And I think that like it's really important for kids to have access to an earth sciences class at their school. That's kind of one of our main pieces.
Also, while we're
I'm
talking about
actually
education,
doing a happy dance right now because earth science, why did that get taken out of our curriculum? Yay, earth science.
I'll quickly throw in something more about the education piece. Along the high level structure of our whole education policy was written by the director of sustainability for Pima Community College. And so he's been a really huge help in this. There's a kind of a pipeline in terms of like TUSD students going to PCC either for like an associates, and then they transfer to the University of Arizona for 4 years. And there's also a lot of dual enrollment classes that TUC students can take from PCC to get college credit. And so this resolution specifically says that TUSD should work with Pima Community College to use to get more like dual enrollment, environmental focused classes. And so we're setting up through this resolution more like regional collaboration on climate topics as well, which is pretty exciting.
Great. Other questions? Yeah, Gilda, go for it.
I was just wondering if school committees are gonna drive priorities based on where there might be funding. So if the IRA, which is fabulous, it's gonna cause school districts to focus on buildings as opposed to food or education or the other pieces.
I think it's quite possible. Yeah, what do you think, Ojus? Is IRA kind of moving large in that?
That's a really good point. I think a lot of stuff is going to be determined by like where the money flows, as always. But I think there has been a lot of I haven't engaged with staff directly. It's been our board member kind of serving as a go-between for that. But he has said that there's a lot of excitement across staff in every sector to like work on this. So I think people in energy are excited in this, people in procurement and food are excited about this. So I think when the district puts together their climate action plan, I think that's when we're going to see how they plan to address all of these in parallel at the same time. But I do think that there's huge potential for all this to be done simultaneously. And one thing I will also kind of mention regarding funding is that TUSD recently, like last November, just got approved like a $480 million bond from the voters. And so that's going to play a really big role in terms of funding building improvements and to a lower extent like food and education as well. And I see a question from Amber. Sorry, Gild, I don't know if you wanted to follow up on.
Great. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, question from Amber on the long-term strategy. Really, really good point. We've talked with the board member we're working with, and he's talked with the superintendent about the intention to set up a student committee at like the board level to look at this. And so that would have students from different middle schools, high schools, whatever, serving on this and serving as in an oversight capacity to ensure that this doesn't get left by the wayside, that is continually implemented. And also the resolution commits the district to identify and appoint a climate champion. And so implementing this resolution is going to become a part of their job description. And so it's going to be their job to ensure that this gets implemented across all the districts. And also at a little bit like zooming out higher level, I think with so much attention focused on climate nowadays at the national level, but also in Tucson with their climate action plan, in Pima County in Arizona, I am very confident in TUSD committing to implement this long after I leave Tucson.
Great. That's great. Any last questions? Oh, okay, Tom, back at it. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, one of my other questions was a follow-up to what Jennifer asked anyway, which is in Massachusetts, we have, and I'm sure Arizona has this also, there's state level content standards. And the content standards on climate are really vague. And that does allow teachers to kind of, and districts to do what they want, but more often it means they don't do very much. But if those were more specific in some ways it makes the resolution process harder because what you do has to be consistent. And I'm wondering if you ran into how your education piece intersects with state standards to the extent you have them about climate, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so
Yeah, go ahead. Owen.
okay, thanks. Yeah, so kind of our standards in Arizona are set by our like state government, which in past years we actually just got rid of Doug Ducey, who was our Republican governor. But in past years, our state standards on climate education have been non-existent or like barely there. I think with Katie Hobbs, they might have changed, but we still have our our education like director of education or whatever. It's like our education superintendent for the entire state is still staunchly Republican, like climate denier, like it would not put any standards in there that would regard the climate at all. So that's not really something that we've been kind of running into. I think there are some requirements about like earth sciences, and I think at the district level there are some climate requirements, but other than that, not really anything.
Okay, thanks.
But we do have language in our implementation details doc that says that like the process of coming up with a climate curriculum is kind of hard. And so the district is going to work alongside PCC to develop like a set of resources that teachers can use to more efficiently like deliver climate education and not feel like super worried about it or feel like they don't know what to do.
And I'll just say that that is also what's in our state climate education bill that's now trying to make its way out of Ways and Means Committee. That's exactly the approach we took too, which is, or that our students who wrote it took, which is that our state department could provide guidance because it's hard to know what to do.
Great. What an awesome discussion this has been. Oh, just Owen, you guys just gave us so much to think about, so much inspiration here. We so appreciate you taking us into the work, you know, both like how you're doing the work and, you know, some of the, you know, twists and turns along the way. This is hard stuff. And so we really appreciate you being vulnerable with us. We hope we can learn from what you guys are doing and maybe share some of what we managed to accomplish here in Massachusetts. Who knows? We'll be passing the learnings back and forth is our hope. So we'll be cheering you on. We should talk more about IRA and tax credits and be happy to talk with you about how we can like strategize and you know talk with some of your board members about some of those financial pieces because understand that is a big piece of this conversation. So thank you. Huge thanks. Let's give all around applause. Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. You guys are champs. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Cool.
And thank you guys again so much. Thanks for inviting us. Thanks for coming out and listening to us. Yeah, really excited to see what you guys continue to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Just. Okay, Sarah Karp, I'm turning it over to you to close us out with some very exciting announcements.
I have a link to drop in the chat.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you just for being with us. And yeah, very, very cool things, I must say. I will close us out here with some what I would say is pretty exciting news. Which is that we finally have a website for the Climate Resilient Schools Coalition. And so you can go and click on that link right there. It will take you to yeah, our new website created by the wonderful Emma Scudder, who she can't be here for us to give our thanks to. But I will say one of the big highlights of this page that you will see if you kind of poke around a little bit is our upcoming events page. And so you can see on there dates for the next co-working, which is going to be 2 weeks from today on May 23rd. Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for yes, thank you. On May 23rd, that's a space again, just to kind of like drop in and with questions to kind of talk through any of the pieces of team building of resolutions, learn from each other, sort of just like a chill hour. And then we also have our next organizing network meeting on June 27th at 4 o'clock. That is going to be kind of our final meeting of like this school year before we sort of take a break in July and August, at least from these large organizing meetings. But really just a chance to kind of celebrate work, like learn from each other, get more kind of detailed updates on what's happening across the state. And yeah, we hope to see you there.
I'll just mention that some folks are getting this website looks suspicious link, and that's because it's new and we haven't gone through all the hoops we need to. It is not suspicious. You are fine. You are safe. Go through, and we will fix that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course, yeah.
If somebody fills out an interest on the interest form that I see, will you direct them to their local, kind of like anybody that's like, let's say somebody, you know, there's no connection to local teams on the website, just a general form, but you will put them in touch with people.
That
in
Yeah,
would
right now that's what Emma is doing. Is she, or maybe Sarah's helping? I'm not sure, but they come.
Yes.
You are helping.
The
Yeah,
answer
they
is
come
yes.
and- yeah.
Yeah,
And
thank
then
you.
someone's like, okay, here's your team.
Yes.
You guys meet. Yeah.
And I will just say on that note, since we have 3 minutes to spare, it is really important that people fill out that form. And so if you're on this call and are like, I have not filled out that form, you should do that. Just so that we have everyone's contact info in one place. And it just like helps for our kind of keeping track of the people and the teams. But yes, and also Tina, I will say, if you are someone who's like, I would be interested in having, you know, contact info like for a Northampton team on the website directly so that people can reach out to you. That's something that me and Emma have talked about. And so I'm definitely happy to kind of explore that. But yes, we will make sure that people in the meantime find their way to you.
Yeah, this is the template email, Tina, that people get, kind of thanks for your interest in the coalition. Here's our rolling notes. Here's the next meeting. Here's the directory of the coalition contacts and a link to the Slack workspace. So that's kind of the standard note that folks get from Emma.
It seems like it would be good at some point, if and when we have the bandwidth, to kind of divide the contact information into 2 parts. Here's how to contact the person in your local community if there's already a team there. And here's what to do if there isn't a team and you want to start one.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Great. Any last words, celebrations? Who's got a kid graduating from high school? Whoa.
Who is a kid graduating from high school?
Who is a kid graduating high school? Any there? No. Oh, just already off to college.
And
All
Owen is
Wow.
what year? I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a sophomore in high schoul, so I still got a ways to go.
All right.
Wow, impressive
Good.
and very impressive of us too,
Yeah.
for all your work.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Amazing organizing.
Thank you guys so much.
Out
This is
there.
really amazing.
Thank everyone.
Thank you.
Talk soon. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Good meeting.